So, starting as we always do with some Skeptic Sunday School. Ladies and gentlemen, bow your heads. Let us think. Reverend Gutierrez, what gospel are you preaching the good word of today?
Well, actually, being this week coming up is Thanksgiving. I'm in the giving mood a little bit. So I figured will throw a bone, and instead of finding something that we so easily disagree with, we're going to point out some of the things of the Christian religion that we agree with.
So, we're going to give the bone to Jesus.
I mean, we do that every week, but this one's a little, I guess, a nicer one. Uh,
All right.
More gentle.
More gentle,
Uh,
calm. We're going to run our fingers through his long, lovely locks. All right,
so,
let's
so,
hear it.
I mean, just you, the Old Testament. We're pretty much going to throw that out. There's nothing, kind of going through that. There's some stories that maybe hold water in today's
Yeah, but they
moral.
hold water like the ark held. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're questionable. But yeah, there's not too much in there worth noting. I think the old theologians might have been better off dumping that whole book. But going to the New Testament and the teachings of Jesus, while we don't agree with everything, a lot of the things he did talk about are important. Not judging others. There was uh, what is it? The story with the prostitute. Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone.
Yep.
So there's some good stories there about taking care of people, um, helping them less fortunate. Um,
Every group higher than 12 needs a whore. If
I
you
mean,
if you got more than 12 other people in your group, if there's 13 of you, you gotta add a prostitute. Hence
I mean,
Mary,
I'm all for that.
I guess.
uh, yeah, well, yeah, that one. Yeah, we're gonna not mention that as the parts
Oh,
we
right,
agree
right,
with.
right, right. We're supposed
Right,
to
right. So
kinder,
no,
gentler.
but
Okay.
it's worth mentioning. But yeah, that's um, we value women a little bit more than they did back then. Um, but yeah, so I mean, just basically, just the idea of Jesus, that it's so far from what we have today in the modern religion. There's some good things that you could go back and say, hey, if you guys actually focused on what he said and what he tried to do for most of it, we'd have we would have less reason to have the show
Right.
if they focused on the teachings of Jesus Christ. And a lot of times when I'm arguing with people, I tell them, like, hey, all I'm doing is coming back to the teachings. I agree with those, but the hating on the gays, um, all those
And
things.
while they're not casting stones, so I mean we can relate this to the Republican Party. And while they may not be casting stones nowadays, they're casting laws and bills to basically openly discriminate against those that they don't agree with their lifestyle. Even though, as I brought up with Mary Magdalene, most of America still does not agree with her lifestyle. Yet she walked among the Son of God, and he had a seat. I mean, arguably, I mean, there's people out there that theorize that she actually had a seat at the Last Supper. So you're right. Jesus does have his persona is that he was not judgmental, and another shot at Republicans. He was a socialist. He's quoted as saying it's easier for a poor man to get into heaven or no, it's harder for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven than it is for a camel to enter the eye of a needle. Um, I'm not really with that. I agree with capitalism to a certain extent, but for the most part, I mean, Jesus was a socialist figure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't believe in heaven, so there goes
Well,
that
yeah, sure.
uh, carrot for us. But yeah, exactly right. It's about spreading the wealth, taking care of the less fortunate, and yeah, I mean, basically, if you had money, you were supposed to do good deeds with them.
Right.
And you know, some religious people do, but it doesn't count if you do it for tax purposes. And it's
Right.
um, yeah, just the whole greed part just doesn't square with the teaching of Jesus. And it's again usually those conservative people that are quick to throw their religion kind of in your face.
Right.
But when you break it down and kind of talk about what parts they actually follow, it seems like it's more kind of to make them feel good and not the teaching of Jesus, which actually should be in Christianity the main focus.
Right.
Uh, you know,
Because that's their book. So I mean, and that's what it is. I mean, if you ask me, they don't really follow the teachings of Jesus. The majority, the ones that I meet, the ones that I talk to, like you said, I'm sure they're out there, but they follow the morality standard of the Old Testament, and they talk like Jesus, but they don't do like Jesus does. In the sense that when it comes to the LGBT community or other people that believe differently than you, whether it be atheists, Muslims, Jews, whatever. And then when it comes to fiscal policy, I don't recall Jesus ever saying you don't deserve this bread if you didn't work for it. Now, I'm not advocating that people that don't work shouldn't get paid, or that people that don't work should get paid. I'm not saying that's right, but when they take it to the far extreme of, as you always put it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you need to help yourself, the world doesn't owe you anything, nobody needs to be nice to you, you're on your own, and I made it, so why can't you, regardless of circumstance. That never came out of Jesus' mouth at all, and as far as I recall, that never came out of anybody's mouth, even in the Old Testament. That was never the fiscal policy. The only fiscal policy that you can really find other than a monarchy dictatorship in the Old Testament is Jesus' socialism in the New Testament.
Yeah, no, agreed. And there's a meme going around right now for the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
Have you seen about the nativity set that says,
Mm-hmm.
remember as you're putting up your nativity set, the Middle Eastern couple looking for shelter. While you're denying
refugees.
Syrian, refugees. So, I mean, we're gonna start off nice, but just the hypocrisy of Christians.
Well, and they have a reason though, because it's white Jesus that they're putting nativity scenes up as. Because as we discussed when we were doing the Book of Mormon last week, I mean, everything was done here in the United States, and not by Native Americans, but by white people. All of it adds up somehow. I think.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, but if they would, it's all cherry picking, and that's what it really comes down to. Is the better things about the Bible is what you find in the New Testament and the teachings of Jesus, where nobody should be denied certain rights, which is their right to pursue their own happiness, the right to food, water, shelter, and a job, for the most part. I'm throwing the job one in there myself, but yeah.
No, yeah, and like you said, a lot of cherry picking, but it's interesting now that they focus on a lot of teachings that are not necessarily the foundations of the church. It just serves their agenda, so they'll push those. When it's really the meat and potatoes part, it's like they'll ignore that, and it's funny.
I can't remember. Well, it always surprises me what they're able to justify. I can't remember. It's just it's popping in my head right now. But I watched some documentary. I can't remember which one it was, and there was a guy on there that talked about how Jesus promoted gun control or promoted open carry laws. I don't remember what he cited or how this person did that. It was from one of the religious documentaries I've watched. I can't remember which, but guy just walks up to somebody, to the main guy that you're following, whoever that was, and says, Jesus promoted open carry. It's like, what the?
Of maybe of like slingshots or something,
Well, yeah, David, right? David took place before Jesus, but I would say open carrying of bread and fish, maybe. Or wine and fish. I mean, that would make a little more sense. But if religious people followed their own doctrine a little more closely when it comes to the positive teachings of Jesus, you're right. We wouldn't have too much of an issue. Well, we'd still be doing the show because we got politics, but even those politics wouldn't be that big of a deal if the separation of church and state was actually enforced.